Section 7 of Chris and the Wonderful Lamp. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Rick Cordray. Chris and the Wonderful Lamp by Albert Stearns, Chapter 7, in which both Dr. Ingalls and the genie offer advice, and Chris starts on a journey. 4 of the Academy boys, Scotty Jones, Fred Tobin, Will Bent, and Nat Marston, were approaching Chadwick's Acre on their way to Simms Pond. Suddenly, Will called out, "My gracious, fellows!" and came to an abrupt standstill, his hands uplifted, his mouth wide open, an expression of the utmost amazement on his face. The other boys halted too. "What's the matter with you?" demanded Scotty. "Haven't forgot to bring bait as you did last time, have you? Because if you have, you'll have to dig for 'em, for we haven't any more than we need, have we, fellows?" It's gone," gasped Will, whose face had grown strangely pale. "Did you see it?" "See what?" cried Nat. "Like, right over there. I saw it just as plainly as I see you. Was a building," said Will. "Where?" chorused his companions. "Right over on Chadwick's Acre. It was made of marble, and it was as big as the Fifth Avenue Hotel in New York, and 4 times as handsome. I saw lots of people moving around in it, too. And now it's gone." "See here, Will Bent," said Scotty, who was inclined to be slangy when he thought the occasion demanded it. "What are you giving us?" "It's true, I tell you," shouted Will excitedly. "There's no mistake about it. But I'd hardly caught sight of it when it melted away, just like those dissolving views they had at the Methodist Church last week, only quicker. Where were your eyes, fellows?" The boys acknowledged that they had been looking at a dark cloud that had come up in the west and speculating as to the probability of rain. But they, quite naturally, treated Will's story with derision. "There's no trick about it," said Will, with intense earnestness. "I did see the building right over there, and just as it disappeared, I thought I saw something or somebody fall over by that big rock. It looked like a man's body." "Jingo!" exclaimed Scotty. "There is somebody lying over there." "There's somebody lying over here, too, I think," said the skeptical Nat. But he followed his companions, who'd started at a run for the rock near the center of Chadwick's Acre. Scotty was the first to reach the rock. "It's Chris!" he cried, bending over the prostrate body of his chum and shaking it energetically. That'll do now," he continued, shouting in the boy's ear. "It's no use playing possum with us." "Let him alone," said Nat. "Don't you see there's something the matter with him? Maybe he's had a fit. He isn't dead, is he?" Scotty looked up with a white face, saying, "I don't know, but he is, fellows." "No, he isn't either," said Will, who'd placed his hand over Chris's heart. "But I shouldn't wonder if he was badly hurt. Didn't I tell you I saw him fall?" "What has he got in his hand?" asked Nat. "It looks like a lamp." "It is a lamp," returned Scotty. "It's the same one that Professor Thwacker took away from him yesterday. I wonder why he lugs that round with him." "Never mind about that," said the practical Will. "What we've got to do now is take him home." "That's so," said Nat. "Scotty, you run ahead and prepare his folks. His mother's very nervous, and if she saw us bringing him home and didn't know anything about it beforehand, she might faint." "All right," responded Scotty, and he bounded away like an antelope. It is to be feared that he did not use a great deal of tact in breaking the news to Mrs. Wagstaff, for he had scarcely uttered a dozen words when the good lady fell to the floor. "As if," as Hudda put it in describing the event to Jed Beardsley that evening, "she'd been hit with a thunderbolt." When she recovered consciousness, Chris was bending over her, his face nearly as white as her own. "Don't be frightened, Mother," he said, kissing her tenderly. "I'm all right. Scotty thought I was badly hurt, but I'm not." "Oh, Chris," cried Mrs. Wagstaff, folding him tightly in her arms. "Are you sure you aren't?" "Of course I am." "Ouch! Don't squeeze so hard, Mother. You'll hurt my side." "You are hurt, Chris," cried the poor lady. "Oh, tell me how it happened." Here Dr. Ingalls, who had been summoned by the badly frightened Scotty, and who, assisted by that youth, had placed Mrs. Wagstaff upon the sofa, saw fit to assert himself. "You mustn't allow yourself to become excited. You really mustn't, ma'am. There are no bones broken, I can assure you of that. Chris has had a fall, but has escaped very luckily, it seems to me. Now then, young gentlemen," turning to the four boys who were huddled in the doorway, each one looking as if he felt himself personally responsible for the accident, "perhaps you can explain how this thing happened." "I always knew you would lead Chris into some trouble with all your pranks, Scott Jones," wailed Mrs. Wagstaff. "I didn't do it, ma'am," sputtered Scotty, almost tearfully. "I was with the other fellows going to Sim's Pond and found him lying on the ground down at Chadwick's Acre." "And we picked him up," broke in Matt, "after we sent Scotty on ahead to tell you, and we were going to carry him home, but he came to, just as we got to the sawmill, and he walked the rest of the way. I guess he isn't hurt much, Mrs. Wagstaff." "So, Chris, you have fits of dizziness occasionally, eh?" said Dr. Ingalls. "Never had anything of the sort in my life, Doctor," replied Chris promptly. "Then how did you happen to fall?" I can't tell exactly, Doctor," hesitated the boy, who was not ready to enter into explanations yet. "It was so sudden that I don't entirely understand it myself." "Exactly. An attack of vertigo, beyond the shadow of a doubt," said the doctor, very decidedly. "Don't be alarmed, Mrs. Wagstaff. We'll have Chris all right in no time. This is no more than I expected. I will make an examination to ascertain the exact nature of his injuries," continued Dr. Ingalls. "Step into the next room with me, Chris." The boy followed him. When they returned, a few minutes later, the physician's face wore a puzzled look. "His injuries are not serious," he said, "but I cannot account for the presence of so many severe contusions on his right side and arm, except by the supposition that he fell from some considerable height." "So he did," began Will, but he stopped abruptly at a warning glance from Chris, and added, as the doctor fixed a piercing gaze upon him, At least, that's what I thought, too." "I think I understand this business," said Dr. Ingalls, addressing himself to Mrs. Wagstaff. "It is merely a boyish escapade, in which I imagine one of Squire Davis's apple trees figured prominently. Boys who are subject to vertigo should keep off the branches of trees. Come now, young gentlemen," turning to the boys, "don't you think you'd come a little nearer to the truth if you laid the scene of the accident not far from the squire's orchard?" The old gentleman's face wore a good-humored smile as he put this question. He'd been a boy himself once, and that period of his life did not seem so distant as it does to some old people. But he was disappointed at what he considered the utter lack of responsiveness in the youthful quartet. The four boys began to protest with great earnestness their entire innocence of the implied charge. He cut them short with, There, never mind. However the affair occurred, it's over now, and Chris has had a lucky escape, in my opinion. Be off with you now, and try to keep out of mischief the rest of the day." "Yes, do go," added Mrs. Wagstaff. "And as for you, Scott Jones, I wish you would never speak to Chris again." The boys filed out, poor Scotty at their head, all looking very sheepish and crestfallen. "Chris might as well go, too," said the doctor. "I'd like a few words in private with you, Mrs. Wagstaff." So Chris started after the boys and overtook them just as they reached the road. "Say, Will," he whispered in the ear of that youth, "I want to speak with you a moment." Together, the two boys walked slowly back toward the house, and Chris asked, "What did you mean when you told the doctor that I fell from a height?" "Meant just that. replied Will laconically. But what did you see? Why did you think— I don't know what I saw, broke in Will. I can't understand it at all. But I thought I saw a big marble building standing on Chadwick's Acre. It disappeared like a flash, and then I thought I saw you falling. Did any of the other fellows see it? Asked Chris excitedly. No, and they wouldn't believe me when I told them about it. Let them think you were trying to play a trick on them, said Chris, and don't say a word about it to anyone. But what does it all mean? Asked Will. I can't explain now, replied Chris earnestly, but you'll know all about it very soon. Tomorrow, maybe. And you'll say it's the biggest thing you ever heard of in your life. But I can't stop any longer. Mother's calling me. Now remember, not a word. He darted away, and Will ran on to rejoin the other boys. Mrs. Wagstaff and Dr. Ingalls stood in the doorway when Chris reached the house, and the former said, Chris, the doctor says you must go out of town right away. What for? Asked the boy rather blankly. You've been far from well of late. You need an entire change of scene, my lad, and you're going to have it, said Dr. Ingalls. How would you like to go and see your cousin Robert? Asked Mrs. Wagstaff. I'd just as lief stay at home, replied Chris. Why, only last week you begged me to let you go and spend a few days with him, exclaimed the anxious mother. Yes, I know it, but you said I'd get too far behind with my studies, and I guess I should. I think I'd better wait until Christmas. There'll be no school for you for the present, said the physician, very decidedly. You have been working too hard of late. But, began the boy. It's no use objecting, interrupted Dr. Ingalls, smilingly. All work and no play. You know the rest, Chris. You'll have to take a vacation. Well, if I must go, I must, said Chris resignedly. When shall I start? We'll settle that when Father comes home, replied Mrs. Wagstaff. I think you ought to take the 8 o'clock train in the morning. There should be no more delay than is absolutely necessary, said the doctor. Now have a good time, Chris, and when you come back, you'll thank me for insisting upon the trip. Goodbye. Don't look so troubled, Mrs. Wagstaff. There's nothing to worry about. Good afternoon. Then he bustled away. As soon as Chris could escape from his tearfully solicitous mother, he went to his room, locked the door, and gave the lamp an angry rub. The genie appeared with his usual promptness. For a few seconds, master and slave stood facing each other in silence. So, said Chris at last, you're here, are you? Don't you see I am? Returned the genie. His face wore a hard, forbidding expression. Any orders you may see fit to issue will receive prompt attention. What is it this time? Another palace? No, it isn't, snapped Chris. I want to know what you meant by playing such a mean trick on me. I am at a loss to understand you, said the genie coldly, and with a slight elevation of the eyebrows. You know perfectly well what I mean, rejoined Chris angrily. I told you to make that palace disappear. Well, I did it, didn't I? Said the slave of the lamp. It's gone, isn't it? I wasn't aware that any of it was left. However, if you are aware that such is the case, I shall give the matter my immediate attention. You know well enough what I mean, said Chris. The palace disappeared all right, but I fell 15 or 20 feet. Did you indeed? Queried the genie. As he spoke, he pretended to brush a fly from his nose, but Chris saw plainly that he was only attempting to conceal a smile. Yes, I did, cried the boy, almost fiercely. Now see here, I didn't tell you to let me drop all that distance, did I? Nor did you tell me not to, was the genie's quick response. You made no personal reference whatever, if my memory serves me right. I had my hands pretty full in getting that palace out of the way, and I had no time to think of you. Should anything of the kind occur again, it would be well for you to bear this experience in mind. This made Chris angrier than ever, The coolness and self-possession of the genie were certainly very provoking. "It would be well for you to bear it in mind, too," he cried. "I shan't stand many more such experiences." "No, I don't think you will," replied the genie, significantly. "It's a wonder to me you were not killed today. Now see here," he went on in an altered tone, "to get right down to business, if you think you can get your errands run and your palaces built any better by anyone else, go right ahead and engage that individual's services. Don't consider my feelings. I assure you I'm not at all anxious to continue the career of overwork and over-worry that you seem to have marked out for me. Why, my gracious, you don't appear to understand how this sort of thing is wearing on me. And it was so different with Aladdin. He always had a pleasant word for everyone. He wasn't a bit spoiled by prosperity. Why, I was almost like one of the family. Of course, he'd have his little joke once in a while, but it was always a harmless one. He was a gentleman, every inch of him. Oh, I tell you," and the genie sighed dismally, "folks are not what they used to be. Those were the good old days." "Well, you needn't take on so," said Chris, rather irritably. "There are good times coming, too." "They're a long while getting here," grumbled the genie, gazing discontentedly at the lamp. "Whenever you get through talking," said the boy sharply, "I'll tell you why I sent for you this time." "I'm all attention," was the reply, uttered with an air of resignation. "Let me know the worst at once." "I've nothing to say that need worry you any," returned Chris. "I wanted to warn you not to make another attempt on my life and tell you what has happened since the last time we met." And he informed his companion of the events that had succeeded the disappearance of the palace. The genie's face brightened up somewhat as he listened. "Well," he said when Chris had finished, "I think you're all wrong in making a mystery of the lamp and of me, and in allowing yourself to be so misunderstood. If I were oversensitive, I should think you were actually ashamed of me. But I'm not, and I don't care a rap. I'm rather pleased with the idea of this trip. We may get a good deal of fun out of it. Where does your cousin live?" "In Lincolnville." "And where's that?" "About 20 miles east of this place." "Well, I'll tell you what we'll do," chuckled the genie. "When you're all ready to start, you give the lamp a rub, and I'll transport you there in a jiffy. Think how astonished your parents will be to see you tearing through the atmosphere at the rate of 100 miles a second, more or less. It will be a delicate hint to them that you are not to be dictated to and bossed around in the future, and will prepare them for coming exhibitions of your power. How's that for an idea? I tell you, 2 heads are better than 1." And the spirit laughed heartily. "It'll all do it all," said Chris. "I'm not ready to let anybody know yet." "It's always the way," cried the genie wildly. "You seem to object on principle to everything I say and do. I can't even appear in a shape of my own choosing, but must disguise myself as a shriveled-up old man or a commonplace young schoolboy. Oh, it's galling, galling." "You can appear in any shape you like in the future," returned Chris, a good deal nettled by the uncomplimentary reference to himself, "so long as you keep a civil tongue in your head." "Huh," was the genie's only response. "And now," added the boy, "you may go. I've said all I have to say at present." The angered spirit instantly vanished, and this time his disappearance was accompanied by a loud clap of thunder, which Chris felt could be construed only as an evidence of his disappointment and anger at the result of the interview. At the tea-table that evening, Mr. Wagstaff discoursed learnedly on the singular phenomenon of a thunderclap on a clear, cool afternoon in October, explaining, to his own satisfaction, the natural causes that had produced it. and reprimanding Chris sharply for giggling in the midst of his remarks. "Don't talk to him like that, Pa," cried Mrs. Wagstaff anxiously. "You know the doctor said he mustn't be excited." "Well, we'll drop the subject," said Chris's father. Then turning to the boy, he asked, "Are you going to be ready for the 8 o'clock train tomorrow morning?" "Yes, sir," replied Chris, who had resigned himself to the inevitable. "My bag is packed already." "You needn't have done that," said his mother. "Besides, I want to send some preserves to your Aunt Sabina." "There's plenty of room for them in the bag," said the boy. "You can put them in before I go." Chris overslept the next morning. His fond mother would not awaken him, and he only had time to swallow a hurried breakfast before starting for the railway station. He was obliged to run nearly all the way, and reached his destination just as the train halted, the air brakes wheezing asthmatically. His first thought, as soon as he was comfortably seated, was of the lamp, which he had placed in the bag the previous evening, and had not seen since. Of course it was all right, he told himself, but it would do no harm to look. He unlocked the valise, which was a small one, and inspected its contents. There were his clothes, 2 books, a jar of preserved watermelon rind, and 2 of pickled peaches. But no lamp. Chris snapped the lock of the bag, sprang to his feet, and rushed to the door, his expressive face indicating all the anxiety and dismay he felt. "What's the matter, Chris?" asked Jotham Smiley, the brakeman. "Ain't forgot nothing, have you?" Without replying, the boy leaped from the train, which was just rumbling away from the station. In another moment, he and the valise were rolling down a steep embankment. End of section 7.